Right now, your dog is probably curled up somewhere nearby, or they will be tonight. And at some point, they're going to get up, walk over, and press their head right against your leg, your arm, or your chest. Most people just smile, maybe say something sweet, and go right back to whatever they were doing. But that little movement is actually one of the most meaningful things your dog does with their body. And there's a version of it that vets and trainers say you should never, ever ignore, because it has nothing to do with love. Welcome back to Canine Mindset, the place where we dig into what's actually happening inside your dog's head, behavior by behavior. If that's the kind of content you're here for, go ahead and hit subscribe now, because by the time this video ends, you'll see your dog in a whole new light, starting right here. Let's ask the obvious question first. Why would an animal built for survival in the wild ever make itself that vulnerable, resting its head, arguably the most exposed and critical part of its whole body, right on top of you? Stop and think about that for a second. In the wild, no canine ever drops its guard around something it doesn't fully trust. The head is where the eyes are, the ears, the nose, the throat. It's mission control. Any threat, any predator, any rival is going straight for the head first. So when your dog chooses to rest that same head on your lap, your foot, your shoulder, they're overriding every defensive instinct nature gave them. They're essentially telling their own body, relax, nothing's going to happen right now because you're the barrier between them and everything dangerous out there. That's not a throwaway gesture. That's about as much trust as a dog can hand over, and they don't hand it to just anybody. But trust is only one piece of what's going on. There's also a chemical side to this happening in real time. When a dog settles into calm, steady physical contact with someone they're attached to, their brain floods with oxytocin. You've probably heard it called the bonding hormone, the same one that spikes when a mother first holds her baby. And here's the interesting part, it's not one-directional. Studies looking at how humans and dogs interact have shown that oxytocin climbs in the owner too, during that exact kind of quiet, gentle touch. So when your dog leans their head into you, it's not only them feeling something. You're both getting rewarded chemically for that closeness at the same moment without a single word passing between you. Here's something most people never think about. Dogs carry scent glands concentrated around their face, their cheeks, and the base of their ears. So when your dog presses their head into you and just leaves it there, they're not only cuddling, they're leaving their scent on you. In the animal kingdom, that's a form of marking. Only instead of marking territory, they're marking a person. It's one of the most direct ways a dog has of saying, "You're mine and I'm yours." I want to hear from you in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. Does your dog rest their head on you more during the calm, easy moments? Or have you noticed it happening more after something stressful, like a thunderstorm, a trip to the vet, or a tense moment in the house? Drop your answer below because it might tell you something about your dog you hadn't considered, and we're about to get into exactly that. Here's what really surprises most owners. This behavior didn't start with your dog at all. It goes back thousands of years to the den, long before dogs were ever domesticated. Wolf pups press their heads against their mother and against each other all the time, especially while sleeping, because physical contact helps regulate body temperature, slows the heart rate, and creates a feeling of safety in numbers. A pup pulled away from that contact gets anxious almost instantly. That instinct never went away. It just found a new target. You're not simply the owner anymore. In your dog's mind, you've become the den. You're the source of warmth, safety, and belonging that their ancestors once depended on just to make it through the night. Once you start paying attention, you'll notice this tends to happen at 3 specific moments. First, right after you've been apart, the second you walk through the door after being gone, and your dog presses their head into you almost instantly. Like they're double-checking you're actually home. Second, right before bedtime, when the day winds down and your dog wants one last bit of closeness before drifting off. And third, the one fewer people catch when your own mood shifts. You sit down feeling exhausted, irritated, or upset, and suddenly your dog is right there beside you, head against you, without you calling them at all. Once you start watching for these 3 moments, you'll probably realize your dog has been doing this far more deliberately than you ever gave them credit for. And it goes even further than simple comfort. There's growing evidence that dogs pick up on changes in the people around them, partly through scent. Stress can actually alter the chemical makeup of human sweat, and a dog's nose is sharp enough to catch shifts that we'd never notice ourselves. Add in their ability to read breathing, heart rate through touch, and even subtle changes in posture, and you've basically got an animal quietly keeping tabs on you around the clock, without ever being asked to. When your dog rests their head against your chest or your side, some behaviorists think this is exactly what's happening. They're checking in, staying close enough to catch it if something changes. Picture this: you walk in after a long, draining day. Before you've even said anything, your dog is right there, head pressed against your leg, sticking closer than usual for the next few minutes. You never said a word, your voice didn't even change, but somehow they knew that's not chance and it's not in your head. That's your dog reading you in a way most people never manage to read each other. Now here's the part I really need you to pay attention to, because there's a second version of this behavior that looks nearly identical on the surface, but means something entirely different. And it's the one most owners completely miss. If your dog occasionally rests their head on you while they're relaxed, blinking slowly, leaning in, that's bonding, and it's a beautiful thing. But if you start noticing your dog repeatedly pressing their head against a wall, a piece of furniture, or into a corner, and holding it there for extended periods, especially paired with pacing, circling or looking disoriented, that is not affection at all. In veterinary terms, that specific pattern is called head pressing, and it can point to neurological problems, exposure to toxins, or an underlying illness. From a distance, it can look almost exactly like a dog simply leaning on something to get comfortable, which is precisely why so many owners overlook it. The difference comes down to context. Affectionate head resting happens on you, looks relaxed, and ends once your dog feels satisfied. Concerning head pressing happens on objects, looks tense and rigid, and doesn't stop on its own. If you ever spot that second pattern, that's not a wait-and-see situation, that's a same-day vet visit. Let's talk about something else most owners get wrong, often without even realizing it. When a dog rests their head on you, the natural instinct is to start petting them, talking to them, or shifting around to get comfortable. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice your dog often just wants you to be still. That moment of contact isn't necessarily an invitation for more interaction. Sometimes your dog is simply asking to exist near you quietly, without anything else needing to happen. Moving around too much, standing up too fast, or turning it into a big, excited moment can actually cut short what your dog was really after: calm, uninterrupted closeness. Most of the time, the best thing you can do is just stay still and let it happen. It's also worth knowing that not every dog shows love this way, and that's completely normal. Some dogs just aren't naturally touchy, and instead they show devotion through steady eye contact, trailing you from room to room, or simply wanting to share your space without any physical contact at all. If your dog has never once rested their head on you, that doesn't mean they love you any less. It just means their way of showing it looks a bit different, and that's worth remembering before comparing your dog to somebody else's. Some dogs, particularly breeds developed for close companionship rather than independent work, tend to lean into physical touch more naturally than others. But personality plays just as big a role as breed does. A more reserved or independent dog might show that exact same depth of love through completely different habits, like pressing their back against your leg instead of their head, or simply choosing to sleep in the same room with you, without fail, every single night. Love doesn't look the same from one dog to the next, and it should never be judged by a single behavior alone. So next time your dog wanders over, sighs, and lowers their head onto your leg or your chest, you'll understand exactly what's happening beneath that simple gesture. You'll recognize it as trust built on instincts thousands of years old, a chemical bond firing in both your brains at the exact same moment. And in some cases, your dog quietly checking in on you, the way they always have. Just remember the difference between the version that says, "I feel safe with you," and the version that says, "Something might be wrong." Knowing that difference could genuinely matter for your dog's health. And if you look back over your entire life with your dog, you might realize this one small gesture has quietly marked some of the biggest moments you've lived through together. The first night you brought them home, the day you were too sick to get out of bed, the evening before everything in the house changed. Your dog was there, head resting against you, doing the one thing they've always known how to do best, staying close exactly when it mattered most. If this changed the way you'll look at your dog tonight, make sure you're subscribed to Canine Mindset, because next time, we're covering a behavior that looks almost identical to affection, but is actually your dog trying to warn you about something in the room before you've even noticed it yourself. You won't want to miss that one.